Skeeter Davis remains one of the most enduring figures in country music, a singer whose voice captured the raw essence of heartbreak and resilience. Born Mary Frances Penick on December 30th, 1931, she rose from humble beginnings in rural Kentucky to achieve international fame, particularly with her 1963 hit, The End of the World. Her career spanned decades, blending country roots with pop appeal in ways that challenged genre boundaries and paved the path for future female artists. Yet her life was far more than a series of chart successes. It was marked by profound personal challenges, including family tragedies, abusive relationships, and professional setbacks. Through it all, Davis's story reveals a woman of deep contradictions, vibrant and outgoing on stage, yet privately wrestling with grief, depression, and a search for spiritual meaning. Her experiences offer insights into the human condition, highlighting how pain can fuel creativity and how authenticity often comes at a cost in an unforgiving industry. The early 1930s were a time of widespread hardship in the United States as the Great Depression ravaged economies and families alike. In rural Appalachia, where Kentucky's landscape was dotted with tobacco farms and coal mines, survival demanded unrelenting labor and resourcefulness. Communities relied on subsistence farming, bartering, and whatever odd jobs could be found, often facing food shortages and evictions. It was into this environment of scarcity and uncertainty that Mary Frances Penick was born, in a modest two-room log cabin along Eagle Creek in Glencoe, Kentucky. As the eldest of 7 children to William Lee Penick, a farmer, and Sarah Rachel Penick, her early years were defined by the daily grind of rural poverty. The family worked the land tirelessly, planting crops that sometimes failed due to poor soil or bad weather, churning butter by hand, and preserving whatever produce they could harvest. Meals were simple: cornbread, beans, and occasional wild game, and luxuries were non-existent. The Pennicks huddled around a battery-powered radio for entertainment, listening to broadcasts that brought distant worlds into their isolated home. This exposure to music became a lifeline for young Mary Frances, who showed an early fascination with songs from Hollywood films and radio shows. From a young age, Mary Frances displayed a boundless energy that earned her the nickname Skeeter from her grandfather, who likened her constant movement to a buzzing mosquito. She was always in motion, helping with chores, but also finding ways to express her lively spirit. She would organize small performances in the backyard, singing tunes she memorized from movies like Stage Door Canteen and I'll Be Seeing You, dancing with improvised steps, and even telling ghost stories to neighborhood children gathered around. These moments of play were escapes from the harsh realities at home. Betty Hutton's bold, energetic style particularly inspired her, as Skeeter imitated the actress's songs with a voice that already hinted at her future soprano range. Music wasn't just fun. It was a way to process the world around her, a tool for emotional release in a household strained by financial pressures. Beneath this outward vivacity, however, lurked deep family turmoil that would shape Skeeter's emotional landscape for life. When she was just a toddler, a shocking crime upended everything. Her great-uncle was convicted of murdering her maternal grandfather in Indiana. This violent act sent shock waves through the family, plunging her mother, Sarah, into a severe depression that manifested in repeated suicide attempts. Skeeter, still a small child, found herself in the terrifying role of intervener. At around 5 or 6 years old, she once knocked a bottle of Clorox bleach from her mother's hands as Sarah tried to ingest it, the caustic liquid spilling and burning the floor. In another incident, Skeeter pinned her mother's arms to prevent her from grabbing a sharp butcher knife from the kitchen drawer. The most harrowing memory involved Sarah attempting to jump from an apartment window while holding Skeeter and her infant brother tightly in her arms, a desperate act that Skeeter barely managed to halt by screaming and struggling free. These episodes left lasting psychological scars, creating a strained, ambivalent bond between mother and daughter. Skeeter often felt rejected by Sarah, who seemed unable to provide the affection she craved, leading her to seek solace and approval from her father, William, a steadier presence amid the chaos. The family's instability extended to frequent relocations in search of better opportunities during the Depression. They moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, in the mid-1930s, where William found temporary work, but the urban environment brought its own challenges, including cramped living conditions and exposure to city hardships. After a few years, they returned to Dry Ridge, Kentucky, only to relocate again in 1947 to Erlanger near Covington. By then, Skeeter was a teenager, navigating adolescence in a Protestant household influenced by the Disciples of Christ churches. She attended services regularly, finding temporary peace in the hymns and community rituals. For a brief period in 1948, when the family rented a house on the grounds of Villa Madonna Academy, run by Benedictine nuns, Skeeter was captivated by the sisters' serene lives. She even contemplated joining the order, drawn to the structure and spirituality as a potential escape from her chaotic home life. But music's pull proved stronger. Inspired by the emotional depth of film soundtracks and radio broadcasts, she continued honing her skills, memorizing lyrics, and practicing harmonies. These early influences laid the foundation for her career, teaching her how to infuse songs with genuine feeling drawn from personal pain. By her mid-teens, Skeeter's path to music began to crystallize at Dixie Heights High School in Erlanger. It was there, in 1947, that she met Betty Jack Davis, a fellow student with a similar passion for singing and guitar playing. Though not related by blood, their voices harmonized effortlessly, creating a blend that felt instinctive and sibling-like. They started performing together during school lunch breaks, strumming acoustic guitars and singing country tunes that drew admiring crowds of classmates. Their enthusiasm led to entering local talent contests, including a yodeling competition they won, earning them a spot on a morning television show. Adopting the name the Davis Sisters, with Skeeter taking Betty Jack's surname for the act, they pursued opportunities aggressively. A pivotal moment came during a trip to Nashville's Grand Ole Opry, where they sneaked backstage and met icons like Hank Williams and Chet Atkins, who encouraged their talent. This encounter fueled their ambition, leading to radio appearances on Detroit's WJR station for the Barnyard Frolics program. In Detroit after high school graduation in 1949, the duo recorded demos for Fortune Records, including Jealous Love, released as a single in 1953. Their big break arrived when RCA Victor producer Steve Scholes heard their work and signed them after a meeting in New York City. Relocating to Nashville, they recorded I Forgot More Than You'll Ever Know, a poignant ballad about lost love that resonated with audiences. The song topped the country charts for 8 consecutive weeks and even entered the Pop Top 20, a rare crossover at the time, infused with rockabilly elements, upbeat rhythms contrasting sorrowful lyrics. It later earned a spot as the 65th greatest country single by Billboard historian Joel Whitburn. Success brought tours where they shared stages with legends like Hank Williams, Chet Atkins, and Minnie Pearl. The sisters reveled in the excitement, but their close bond added emotional depth to their performances, making their harmonies feel intimate and authentic. Tragedy struck abruptly on August 2, 1953, shattering their rising stardom. After a late-night show at WVA in Wheeling, West Virginia, their car was involved in a head-on collision near Cincinnati when an oncoming driver fell asleep at the wheel. Betty Jack died instantly from massive injuries, while Skeeter sustained severe head trauma, including fractures and lacerations that required extensive hospitalization. Newspapers initially reported both dead, compounding the grief for their families and fans. Skeeter's physical recovery was arduous, marked by pain and immobility, but the emotional toll was devastating. She grappled with survivor's guilt, questioning why she lived while her closest friend and musical partner did not. Retreating to the home of Betty Jack's mother, Ollie Davis, for convalescence, Skeeter encountered a rarely discussed ordeal. Ollie, overwhelmed by loss, allegedly kept Skeeter sedated with pills obtained from a local dentist, playing their old recordings repeatedly to evoke the past. Ollie pressured Skeeter to reform the duo with Betty Jack's younger sister, Georgia, framing it as a way to honor the memory. In her later reflections, Skeeter described this period as one of manipulation and brainwashing, feeling trapped in a grief-stricken household where her vulnerability was exploited. Reluctantly agreeing, she resumed performing 6 months later, but the new pairing lacked the original chemistry. From 1954 to 1956, Skeeter and Georgia released 9 singles for RCA, recorded in New York and Chicago, and toured extensively as part of the RCA Caravan of Stars. They performed alongside Minnie Pearl, Hawkshaw Hawkins, and Chet Atkins, and in 1955 joined a regional tour with Hank Snow, the Carter Sisters, and a rising Elvis Presley. Skeeter developed a genuine friendship with Presley, sharing conversations about their shared Southern roots and ambitions. Presley even pursued her romantically, but Skeeter prioritized their platonic bond, valuing the support he offered during her mourning. They honored Betty Jack with a memorial performance at the Grand Ole Opry in 1954, a bittersweet moment that underscored the void. However, the new Davis sisters' singles charted modestly at best, failing to recapture the earlier magic. The harmonies felt forced, and Skeeter's heart wasn't fully in it. By 1956, the act disbanded, coinciding with Skeeter's first marriage to Kenneth Depew, a railroad worker. That marriage became another layer of hidden pain in Skeeter's life. Depew, she later revealed, appeared more interested in her budding fame and income than in building a true partnership. Their honeymoon was delayed in consummation for 8 days, symbolizing the emotional disconnect that plagued the union. Living in a contrived domestic setup, Skeeter slipped into depression, haunted by Betty Jack's death and the superficiality of her home life. She battled suicidal ideation, what she termed death wishes, feeling isolated despite her public persona. The marriage ended in divorce in 1959, but not before it exacerbated her mental health struggles, teaching her hard lessons about trust and vulnerability. Emerging from this low point, Skeeter recommitted to her solo career, touring with mentor Ernest Tubb and collaborating with producer Chet Atkins. She co-wrote Set 'Em Free, a plea for release from a toxic relationship that mirrored her own experiences, earning a Grammy nomination for Best Country Recording. This marked the start of her solo breakthroughs. In 1958, Lost to a Geisha Girl, a clever answer song to Hank Laughlin's hit, reached number 1, 15 on the country charts, her first solo success. Atkins pioneered multi-tracking techniques with her voice, layering harmonies to evoke the Davis sisters' sound with added reverb, which became a hallmark on tracks like Am I That Easy to Forget? This innovation added emotional depth, making her solos feel like dialogues with her past self. In 1959, she joined the Grand Ole Opry, fulfilling a childhood dream and solidifying her place in Nashville's elite. That year she penned Homebreaker, another top 20 hit exploring infidelity and regret, themes that resonated with her personal history. The 1960s brought Skeeter's career to new heights as she navigated the evolving music landscape amid the British invasion and civil rights movements. Her star rose with I Can't Help You, I'm Falling Too. Another answer to Lachlan, hitting number 2 country and cracking the pop top 40. A groundbreaking feat for a female country artist. It earned her an appearance on Dick Clark's American Bandstand, exposing her to a broader audience and highlighting her crossover potential. In 1961, Beyond My Last Date With You added lyrics to Floyd Kramer's instrumental Last Date, reaching pop top 30 and country top 5. Touring with June Carter forged a lasting friendship, providing mutual support in a male-dominated industry where women often face dismissal or exploitation. Personal life, however, remained turbulent. Her 1960 marriage to radio DJ Ralph Emery quickly turned toxic. Emery's jealousy manifested in controlling behaviors, obsessive phone calls during tours, baseless accusations of infidelity, even implicating her siblings and hairdresser, and episodes of physical intimidation. One night he pointed a gun at her head, prompting her defiant response. Go ahead and kill me because I would just as soon be dead as live the way we were living. Despite building a home in Brentwood, Tennessee, Emery's affairs, including fathering a child with another woman, led to their 1964 divorce. This period of abuse deepened Skeeter's understanding of emotional fragility, influencing her song choices that emphasized vulnerability and strength. Amid these storms, 1963 delivered her career pinnacle with The End of the World. A masterful crossover, it nearly topped country and pop charts, dominated adult contemporary, and unexpectedly reached R&B top 5, rare for a white female artist. Selling over 1 million copies and earning gold status, the song's haunting question, why does the sun go on shining, echoed Skeeter's own grapplings with loss and continuity. Its melancholic tone, blending orchestral swells with her tender vocals, captured universal grief, making it her signature. Follow-ups like I Can't Stay Mad at You, penned by Jerry Goffin and Carole King, hit pop top 7, while Gonna Get Along Without You Now, a cover of Patience and Prudence's 1956 hit, reached top 50 pop and country top 10. Grammy nominations followed for He Says the Same Things to Me in 1964, Sunglasses in 1966, and What Does It Take to Keep a Man Like You Satisfied in 1967. Skeeter expanded her repertoire with duets like A Dear John Letter with Bobby Bare, and tribute albums to Buddy Holly in 1967, and Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs in 1968, showcasing her respect for musical forebears. In 1972, she covered the anti-war One Tin Soldier, performing it on the Midnight Special and achieving success in Canada. Other hits included Fuel to the Flame, written by Dolly Parton, whom Skeeter later honored with the album Skeeter Sings Dolly, and I'm a Lover, Not a Fighter. Her 1971 autobiographical song, Bus Fare to Kentucky, reflected on her roots, while later tracks like It's Hard to Be a Woman addressed gender struggles. Controversies emerged in 1973 when Skeeter's outspoken faith led to a major professional rift. During a Grand Ole Opry performance, she dedicated a gospel song to young evangelists from a local church group arrested for preaching at a Nashville mall. Witnessing the arrest earlier that day, she decried the actions as unjust, stating her support for the Jesus people and criticizing the police handling. Complaints from local officers prompted Opry manager Bud Wendell to suspend her membership indefinitely, barring her from the stage. Skeeter felt devastated, likening it to being a child without a home, and lost numerous bookings. The incident highlighted tensions between her religious convictions and the Opry's conservative image, which prioritized neutrality. Reinstated over a year later amid fan petitions, she channeled the setback into Christian outreach, including missionary tours in Africa, where she preached and performed amid poverty, finding renewed purpose in her faith. Her deepening spirituality influenced lifestyle changes, such as becoming a vegetarian in 1974 after a Kenyan charity event. Bonding with a goat slated for slaughter, she refused to eat it, declaring, "I really connected with that goat, and I couldn't eat it." This choice aligned with her Christian views on compassion, leading her to decline lucrative meat advertising deals. Musically, hits diminished after 1973's "I Can't Believe That It's All Over," but she sustained her career through global tours in Barbados, Singapore, and Sweden, where fans remained loyal. In 1985, she collaborated with her third husband, Joey Spampanato of NRBQ, on She Sings, They Play. But their 1987 marriage ended in divorce in 1996, another chapter of relational disappointment. Skeeter's later years mixed creativity with health battles. Her 1993 autobiography, Bus Fare to Kentucky, candidly detailed her life's hardships, poverty, abuse, and even paranormal experiences, like sensing Betty Jack's spirit during lonely moments. A lesser-known revelation involved family history, echoes of incest, a taboo subject that added layers to her resilience narrative. She wrote nearly 70 songs, earning BMI awards, and inadvertently shaped the girl group sound through her harmony techniques. Friendships enriched her story. Elvis confided in her during tours. Bob Dylan met her in a New York club, sharing mutual admiration, and Dolly Parton credited her influence. In 1988, breast cancer diagnosis brought a new fight. Undergoing a right mastectomy, she entered remission, but the disease recurred in 1996, metastasizing by 2001. Despite debilitating pain, she performed "The End of the World" at the Opry one final time in 2002, a farewell infused with poignancy. Skeeter passed on September 19, 2004, at age 72 in a Nashville hospice, buried in Franklin, Tennessee. Her battle exemplified quiet determination, refusing to let illness define her final years. Skeeter's life invited debates that underscore her complexity. The 1973 Opry suspension raised questions of censorship versus protocol. Some viewed her as a rebel challenging authority, others as a devout figure out of step with secular Nashville. Her crossover hits sparked discussions. Did blending country with pop dilute traditions or elevate the genre to wider audiences? Critics like Robert Palmer of the New York Times lauded her as an extraordinary country pop singer, yet induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame eluded her, possibly due to her outlaw moments or gender biases. Her marriages fueled gossip. Emery's memoir portrayed her negatively, but hers offered unflinching counter-truths, humanizing the chaos of fame and relationships. Skeeter's legacy extends far beyond her era. As a pioneer, she cleared trails for women in country music, influencing Tammy Wynette's emotive style and Dolly Parton's genre blending. The End of the World endures in films like Don't Worry, Darling, Eternals, and The Boat That Rocked, as well as video games like Fallout 4, evoking timeless themes of loss. Modern artists, including Deborah Harry, who covered My Last Date with You, cite her harmonies as foundational. Culturally, She bridged rockabilly origins to anti-war messages, challenging gender norms in a patriarchal industry. Politically, her Opry stand foreshadowed debates on free speech and entertainment, relevant amid today's polarized climate. Emotionally, her narrative prompts reevaluation of mental health in the spotlight, depression and grief often unaddressed until her book exposed them. Reflecting on Skeeter Davis, she emerges as a survivor whose voice encapsulated human longing and endurance. From Kentucky's dirt roads to worldwide stages, she demonstrated how adversity forges inner strength, and how love, in its many forms, shapes our paths. Though some may overlook her contributions, her story whispers enduring truths of grace amid hardship, reminding us that authenticity and compassion outlast fleeting fame.